get into our market analysis now. In the interest of time, we'll just get into it. We are seeing currency trends. As you will see, so fluctuations as we have been seeing during the week. Let's start with the currencies. The rand has shown some mixed, performances against major currencies like the dollar and the pound. What factors are driving this volatility?
Thank you, Spiso. Good afternoon to you and your viewers. I think it's been a mixed couple of days for the rand.
Yeah.
Last week we saw the rand get propelled quite a bit by the SARB decision to cut interest rates by 25 basis points. This was seen by the market as a small cut because the day before the announcement there was inflation data that was released, which came out much lower than expected, increasing the chances for a much bigger cut. So 25 basis points was seen as a small cut, and the market reacted quite positively to that. The SARB did indicate that this decision was driven by tough economic backdrop, but also by uncertain domestic outlook, even though the inflation numbers were below their target. So it's been quite an interesting week for the rand. And also the governor of the SARB indicated last week that this decision to cut by 25 basis points was unanimous, which means all the members of the MPC agreed to cut by 25 basis points. And then this week we saw the rand then suffer some losses after President-elect Donald Trump indicated that he would be imposing tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. Donald Trump gets into exactly. Donald Trump enters office on the 20th of January next year, and he already indicated that he'll be adding tariffs of 25% on Mexico and Canada, and also additional tariffs on China. So unfortunately for us, China is one of the biggest trade partners of South Africa, so they will be highly affected, which means the rand is also highly affected.
Eswatini is affected.
Exactly, but markets are volatile, so even now the rand is regaining some strength because of inflation numbers that are expected this afternoon from the US. So it's a bit of a yo-yo.
Certainly what we're expecting when Trump assumes office, and we know his political stance, particularly with China.
Exactly.
Let's talk about commodities. What I'm seeing here, gold prices are rising, Brent crude is dipping. What are some of the implications on these shifts for Eswatini's economy?
So we've seen the price of gold. It's up, but it's up at a lower rate than it was before. The price of Brent crude has also been dipping quite a bit. So you can see on the screen, gold is currently trading at $2,648.29 per ounce, and Brent crude trading at $75.26 per barrel. And we've seen that price of Brent crude drop overnight, mainly driven by developments in the Middle East conflict. So Israel agreed to a 60-day ceasefire deal with Lebanon, which commenced today. So the expectation from the market is that there'll be a lower risk premium on oil coming out of the Middle East, which means then it drops that oil price. On the gold side, the reason for the drop is also related to the Middle East tensions. But what's interesting with gold is that even though the price of it, we've seen the increase slow, it's still 25% higher than it was at the beginning of the year. And the price in gold has been increasing primarily due to the US monetary policy stance.
Okay. Global indicators, particularly with equities, the S&P 500 and the FTSE 100, we're seeing the S&P 500 showing positive movement here, but the FTSE is dipping slightly. What do these trends indicate about, global investor sentiment, and, consequently, how would that affect us here locally?
So yes, you're right. We can definitely see that the FTSE is dipping by marginally though, and the reason for that is from Friday, the FTSE has been weakening after data showed that British business output in November had shrunk, and as a result of that, and this was for the first time in over a year, so as a result of that, you're seeing that slight dip. But with the S&P 500 and the JSE All Share Index, we're seeing positive performance there, indicating positive performance in companies in the US and in South Africa. And the US companies' performance is primarily due to the election of Donald Trump as a president. The US really sees that as a factor that will boost the economy and the growth in the US economy. So we're seeing that in the numbers.
America is sneezing.
it might be interesting to also just add that the S&P 500 yesterday registered its 52nd record close for the year. So the performance is really good.
Yeah, really interesting numbers there. But I do want to ask, because we are entering the festive season, and surely there should be an impact then. Tomorrow is Black Friday, obviously. As we approach these seasons, or this season, how might increased consumer spending and trade activity further impact exchange rates and commodity prices?
So yeah, there definitely will be an impact. So if consumers are spending more, businesses are making more, right? So automatically the performance of the businesses is better, which means you'll probably see, unfortunately markets are volatile, so you can never be sure, but you are likely to see an increase in those numbers for the JSE All Share Index, which is closer to home for us, but also just across all the other different countries, there should be a positive impact there.
Interesting season indeed. Thank you so much, Zibu, for your insights this afternoon. This has been Nozibusi Sotembe. She's the treasury dealer for Nedbank Eswatini, just making us understand the indices of the day as we continue to bring you the latest on the business landscape of Eswatini as well as the globe. Thank you for staying with us on the program. This has been the Wednesday edition, actually the last one for the month of November. So be sure to catch